Hey guys, hope you're all having a great day. So in today's video, I put a bunch of small perennials in the ground just to fill up some spaces in these new beds that I created. So let's take a look at each one of the plants that I put in the ground, just about how big, the sun requirements, all that good stuff, and then we'll kind of see what the whole area looks like. So first up is underneath this weeping birch tree. They're actually really hard to see, but I planted 2 Columbine right here. So there's one right there and then one right here. I just wanted to start off and say that 6 of the plants that I ended up planting today are actually from a company called Garden for Wildlife. They were kind enough to actually send me out these plants. It's a part of one of their kits. So I'll link all that information down below if you want to take a look. But they're very small plants to begin with, so they don't look super great right now. They don't look really big. But I promise you next year, they're gonna grow a lot more, they're gonna flower, and they're gonna look a whole lot better than they do now. So just a little disclaimer, but I can show you at least the information on these and about how big they're gonna get. So just taking a look at this tag now, it's Eastern Columbine. You can see it has kind of a reddish yellow flower. It says they bloom from March to July, so this isn't gonna really bloom this year, but next year for sure. It says part shade to shade, which Columbine I've seen mostly in sun. It is hardy in zones 3 through 8, so I would say if you're in a zone 7, 8, keep it in more shade. If you're in a colder zone, then you can keep it in the sun. This will eventually get shaded out by the actual birch tree, but I think it'll be fine where it is now. They end up getting about 1 to 3 feet tall and then 1 to 1.5 feet wide, so I think they're gonna fill up this space nicely. There's nothing else really in this area. This is an annual here, which that's doing very well, but it's just a nice little space to put here, and then maybe later on this season or next season, I'll put something to kind of ring the side over here. This next area that I planted up is around this Kwanzaa flowering cherry. If you may remember from one of my last videos, I took up all the roses that were around here and I ended up planting it with just a bunch of perennials that are pretty deer and rabbit resistant. At least we'll hope so. So the tallest plant that you see is Golden Jubilee Agastaki. It gets about 20 inches tall and about 18 inches apart. So these are definitely gonna fill in a little bit more. They'll send up a few more spikes next season because I know right now they do look a little sparse, but they do add some height to this area without being too tall to kind of surround and cover up the tree. The tree's gonna get a lot larger over time, but for now it'll fill in this space without it overtaking the area. The other thing I really like about Agastaki is that it is a very long blooming perennial. They usually start blooming kind of like midsummer-ish and they kind of go into the fall, to be honest. And they also are a really great pollinator attractor, if that makes any sense. So there's always a lot of pollinators on this Agastaki, so always excited to see that. Now in front of the Agastaki are great blue Lobelia. I know they look very small right now. Again, they're gonna get a lot bigger over time. This was another plant from Garden for Wildlife. This says that their bloom time is gonna be July to September, so kind of midsummer into early fall. They do want kind of sun to part sun, although it seems like they can handle a little bit of shade. They get about 1 to 2 feet tall, 1.5 feet wide, and then they're hardy in zones 3 through 8. But these are nice. Another kind of like pinkish color. It seems to look on the tag kind of like pinkish purple. So it'll definitely contrast nicely with that Agastaki, which is more of a bluish purple. Now the last thing I planted over here was the wild bergamot or bee balm. Now these plants, again, they were small when they first came in, but the tag says that they're gonna get 1 to 4 feet tall and 2 to 3 feet wide. So I figured let me just give them a decent amount of space to grow. I kind of put them behind and there's nothing else that's gonna be planted between them and the tree. So they'll have plenty of room to really fill out, especially next year. It says they bloom May to September, so quite a long time. We'll see kind of how they do with their first flush of blooms next year and if I wanna cut them back. But then hardiness zone is just 3 through 9. So I'm very excited about these. And again, these are pretty much gonna want full sun, but they can tolerate kind of a part shade situation as well. The last thing I just wanted to say about the Monarda is that it does have kind of like a light pinkish, almost lavender color, which I am really happy about because it really ties in together with these all having the same color theme. I do have some dahlias and other things planted here, and then there's a pink hydrangea in the back, but it's all kind of pinks, purples, blues, so I think it's gonna mix together nicely. The only thing I think I wanna add is maybe some element of like a yellow, maybe kind of like a peach color, but some of that like little bit warmer color palette that I want to add. Now this other plant I found at a garden center back in the spring. I didn't know where I was going to put it and I figured I would just plant it today and put it somewhere. It's absolutely beautiful right now because it's in bloom. But it's called Kent Beauty. It's an ornamental oregano. It very much reminds me of eucalyptus. So it almost seems like a really good replacement that's a hardy eucalyptus. It says it's hardy in zones 4 through 8. The mature height is only 4 to 8 inches tall and space is about 6 to 10 inches. So I don't think it's going to get much bigger than it really is now. It says that it blooms in summer. It probably started blooming maybe like 3 weeks ago, and it seems like it's going to hold on to those blooms pretty much for the rest of the season. But the blooms are weird because they almost look like the leaves. You almost don't even notice that they're blooms until you see them, and then you're like, oh yeah, those are definitely the blooms. But it's a really cool plant. It's great to just tuck into a really small space. So I just have it in the corner next to this hydrangea, and it's just gonna fill up that small space because most other plants wouldn't really be able to fit there. But I think it's a really interesting plant. We'll see how it does. The only thing that it mentioned is that you do want to have it not get too wet. So I tried to plant it as high as I could, and I didn't put too much compost around it because that can hold on to a lot of moisture. And then I tried not to have too much mulch around it as well. Now this last plant is actually the one I was most excited about, and you didn't really get to see me plant the second one because my camera was overheating because it was really hot that day. But I got these two in the ground, and they're just kind of tying in a lot of areas in the tropical garden. That's what I'm most excited about. But this is called Frosted Fire. It's a type of upright sedum. It's hardy in zones 3 through 9, and it's going to want full sun. Definitely any type of sedum, you want to give them as much sun as possible. They only get about 12 to 15 inches tall and about 12 to 18 inches wide. So they're not super big right now, but they're not going to get probably more than double to 3 times the size that they are now, which is still significant. But I'm having them right in the front of the bed near the bananas and the hibiscus, and they just add a nice variegated touch to this area where there is kind of a lot of green. There will be color from the hibiscus in the late summer and fall, but these will add a lot of foliage interest when everything is just kind of starting up for the season. These also are a very early grower. They grow very early in the season. They'll start popping up probably like March, April, whereas like the hibiscus, they don't come up until the end of May. So you don't even really see anything from the hibiscus, and same thing with the bananas. I don't really uncover them until we get plenty warm enough temperatures in about the beginning of May. So you'll get to see these sedum grow, and they also have nice winter interest. You can leave them up for the winter time, and they'll hold on to their seed heads. So those are going in. The only thing I'm thinking of is I do like to water the bananas a lot, so I'm just gonna try not to really get too much water near the sedum. So I haven't been watering them a whole lot extra since I have been watering the bananas as well. So that's pretty much it, just a small mix of perennials that I was throwing in the ground. I really just wanted to get them in the ground because we're getting some hot days now. They were starting to struggle in their containers. That Agastaki, I had to water 2 or 3 times a day just to get it in. And I also do see a bunny in the back of the yard. I don't know if you can see it on the camera. It's right there-ish. Well, that's not gonna help. So we will see if these plants are actually gonna be rabbit resistant, because that's something I've been dealing with a lot in the garden this year, and I've kind of made a rule with myself that I don't want to plant stuff that isn't rabbit resistant because I've had too many issues, as you know, with the roses and that kind of stuff. So we're gonna see how these do for the rest of the season, and I think next year this stuff is gonna look a whole lot better than it does now. This is what I'm talking about. So that's pretty much it for this video. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to put them in the comment section down below. Also, if you are still interested in taking a look at the Garden for Wildlife kit that I ended up getting, I will put that link down below like I mentioned, so you can take a look for that as well. So besides that, I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you in the next video.